Hello and welcome to today's video. Today's video is about travel makeup. So for those of you who have been on my channel watching me, you know that starting in like August, Bo and I started traveling. We've gone to Spain, we went to Amsterdam, Rome, and then we just got back from Paris, and then we're going home to visit family in the US in December. So I figured I've been on enough trips. I've packed enough variations of makeup to talk about it in a video, so let's do this. The first thing I want to do is shout out to a couple different travel products that I really like. These are items that I bought a couple years ago, so I'm not sure if they've been upgraded or what. I will try to look them up on Amazon. I got mine on Amazon, so if I can find something similar or if I can find the exact thing, I will try to link it in the video description box below. But this is my travel bag that I use, and this is what I guess it's called, like a train case. I really enjoy this. It's these little compartments here are Velcro-able and they are movable. And this one is too, this big one. So you can move these little dividers to fit your makeup. So if you're taking like a big powder or a big eyeshadow palette, you can kind of move things around. Up here, it has a place for brushes. Mine's definitely used, so it's a little dirty, but brushes, and then a little zipper pocket, which in here I just have like a on-the-go lash curler, which isn't great, so I'm not gonna recommend it. And then like a little sharpener for like pencils and stuff. And then another thing that I want to shout out to is this little travel makeup mirror that I have. So this guy, I'm gonna blind you for a minute, but this has a little trifold thing. It has some LED lights in it. I don't think the lights are fantastic, but if you're really in a pinch, they do work. I recommend traveling with the battery out of them, just because on accident I have hit this little button up here before and then my battery has died. So I just keep a spare battery in my makeup bag. But this guy has also a little bendy thing so that you can, it's a tripod kind of issue where you can stand your mirror up and adjust it to where you can see yourself pretty well. So this is something that I also use for filming quite a lot too. I just think it's really nice and it's just really convenient. Not to mention, for me, this thing fits perfectly up here in this little zipper pocket. So yeah, I can just slide this thing in just like that and zip it up. One other product that I want to give a shout out to is a little color switch. This is an off-brand. Again, I got it either TJ Maxx or on Amazon. I'm not quite sure. I think I've definitely seen them at TJ Maxx, and I've definitely seen them on Amazon. And I've lost the cap to mine, but that doesn't really matter. These things are so nice because they just help you clean your brushes off, and for that reason, you don't have to pack as many brushes as you might normally like have laying around your house. Like I, for example, pack like one nice fluffy crease brush, and I put, like set my lid with it, then I clean it off, go in with a crease, and then the next day I clean it off and go back in with a cream shade, and I don't worry about like getting dark shadow all over my whole eye space. So this is a really nice little tool, and I think this one is totally worth it. It's a little bulky. I wish they made like a mini size of this guy. Maybe they do, I've never looked, but these little things are really great to travel with so that you don't have to pack as many brushes. Okay, let's talk about different kinds of makeup items, and I'll show you a couple different things that I've packed, and if I have a favorite of something that I've tried, then I will tell you that. So first off, I have one favorite. This is, I'm just gonna throw this in because everybody needs to pack a good sunscreen. And when you're traveling, you're typically out and about for long periods of the day. This is my go-to like high SPF coverage kind of thing. This is a Australian gold one, and it's a little bit, if you have dry skin, this might not work for you. It might dry your skin out a little too much. But if you have normal to oily skin, this is such a great sunscreen. It goes on, it says tinted, but it doesn't give you coverage. It just doesn't go on and give you that white cast. So I highly recommend traveling no matter what with a 50 SPF sunscreen, because you're gonna be out and about in the sun and you need to protect your skin. Then I have a couple primers, and for me, primer is something that takes me forever to go through. So I love actually getting these. This is like one of the cases where I really love having little mini guys, and I definitely have traveled with, I keep mini guys for travel. So this Benefit POREfessional, I prefer having like a good pore filling primer if I'm traveling. So this is one that I quite enjoy. It's small, it does the job. One that probably fills pores slightly better than the POREfessional in my opinion is the Smashbox pore minimizing one that they make. It is almost, it's very similar, but I think this one, it has a little bit better of, it does a little bit better of a job of filling pores than the POREfessional. But they're very similar enough to where it's not a huge difference. And then on days where maybe I am going to a climate, like for example, when we went to Amsterdam, it was a little bit colder than we were expecting, and I was worried that my skin would be a little bit dry. So instead of packing one of those, I packed this little Smashbox one. Mine is empty and cut open, but I packed my Smashbox primer because it gives my skin a little bit more slip. It still fills pores a little bit, but it's a little bit more silicone-y and gives your skin a little bit more slip and glide. And for those like drier climates, Paris, again, this was one that I reached for. So this is a good little primer if you're traveling, if you can get your hands on like a little mini guy. Now for foundation, I only have one suggestion, and that is my It CC cream here. This thing has 50 SPF in it. I do not rely on this for my SPF alone, but when I layer this over my sunscreen, I have not gotten burnt yet. Jinx, knock on wood. So yeah, if you haven't tried this, I thought there was a lot of hype around it, and that's what made me eventually pick it up. But I have to say, I think it's a very, very good foundation. It gives you way more coverage than you anticipate when you hear the word CC cream. It's like very medium high to almost full coverage on me. I very much enjoy it. It's something that also has pretty decent lasting power on me, and again, I just think it's a really nice travel foundation, and it's my go-to, my only one that I use. This is it. I have a backup because obviously you can see that I'm almost done with this one. I love this foundation for traveling, even though it's not something that I wear every day. It's not my everyday go-to favorite, but travel, I don't pick up anything else on days when I know I'm going to be outside for a long time. Okay, let's talk concealers. I prefer to travel with things that are more high coverage. I prefer more high coverage concealer anyways. Maybe that's just because I'm a little older and my bags are pretty prominent. So for me, I enjoy Tarte Shape Tape. I don't have a hard time sharing Shape Tape out if I don't go in too heavy. So if I want a lighter coverage, I can get it. If I want a heavy coverage, I can get it. This to me is a good solid foundation. Or a good solid concealer that I can also use as foundation, which I'll talk about in a minute more. But another, if you don't want to pay that price, my go-to like drugstore affordable end would be ColourPop. Their no filter concealer. I haven't tried the new hyaluronic one that they have, but this guy is almost the same coverage as Tarte Shape Tape to me. Not quite as full coverage, but I think it's a solid concealer. I don't really have a concealer that doesn't crease on me, so creasing is just something that I've accepted is gonna happen. All concealers can look a little bit drying on me, but I will trade those things as long as they're not super bad for good coverage, and those two are like good contenders for that. Another one that I want to give a little shout out to is this Ulta Full Coverage Liquid Concealer. It says it's waterproof, and when we went to Spain, we went to Palma de Mallorca, and we knew we were going to be at the beach and at the pool all the time, and so I decided to test this one out for that reason. And I have to say, I mean, obviously if you're swimming and wiping your face all day, it's gonna come off, but it was way more waterproof than I thought it would be. And this was a really nice little concealer to travel with. I would definitely pick this up in the future should I finish this, and just keep it around probably to travel with again. But yeah, this was a pleasant surprise, a pretty nice concealer. The only thing I really don't like about this thing is that I don't think you get a ton of product for the price, and that kind of is a little frustrating to me. Backtracking to foundations, again, if you have a day that you don't want to put on something like a actual foundation and you just kind of want to put something on and get out the door and go, again, I go back to like a nice concealer that gives you enough coverage to where you can spot conceal, do it under your eyes, and then you don't have to set it. I set my entire face with this little Bare Minerals matte foundation that I found. I found this at TJ Maxx for like $2, but this little guy is such a good powder. I had never tried Bare Minerals powders, but I think that it actually gives a decent amount of coverage. It lasts really long on me. Everything goes on top of it really well, and I'm always worried because I tend to struggle with my skin looking too dry if I over powder. That a powder foundation has never really appealed to me, but this guy I don't think looks more powdery or more drying than like when I do my entire makeup with like liquid foundation and then set it with powder. I get the same effect from this, so I have to give this thing a positive shout out. And I think that especially if you can find yourself a little mini guy of this is such a travel friendly product for me, and I love this little thing, period, but I also love traveling with it. Let's talk about two other powders that do not qualify as powder foundations. So the first one is a Kat Von D loose setting powder. If you get your hands on these in like little trial, like Sephora packs, that's where I got mine from, or like any little gift bags. I think these things are pretty great to travel with. And not to mention, I'm almost done with this one. This one is an acrylic project pan for me, but when I'm done with it, I'm going to keep this container, clean it out, and then I can decant like my Cody Airspun into this to travel with in the future, because these little size are perfect to travel with, and I'm really a fan of those. And then also this little guy here is a Fit Me powder by Maybelline. I've used up one of these in the past, but this is a repurchase for me. This is something that I put in my purse. I don't really use this in my makeup routine when I do my makeup, but this is a powder that I recommend if you're someone who wants to blot. This is great blotting powder. I do think it's a little bulky in packaging, but this powder is much better than, I just finished up a CoverGirl powder that has like the smaller round packaging, and I much prefer this formula to like a CoverGirl one that I've tried. So this one to me is a good blotting powder, and I just feel like I should give it a little shout out since traveling and you probably need to blot at some point. So yeah, that's it. Okay, let's talk about bronzer, blush, and highlight. So my bronzers that I travel with is this little guy here. This is a little mini guy, and this is a little Makeup Revolution Pro Z palette. I picked this up in London. Actually, that was another trip that we went on. I picked this up in London, and I have to say, like, the quality of it is not that great. So even though I got it like super cheap, I don't love this thing. But this little guy here, the Hoola Mini Bronzer, is a really nice, like, really nice shade of bronzer, and I think it's kind of provides a little bit of a contour in one step. Like, you don't have to use a separate contouring product to get like a nice chiseled effect. I am wearing this bronzer today, and this is one that I've enjoyed traveling with quite a bit. Now, I will say I have another product that I'll talk about at the end of this category that beats this one out a little bit, but this one is a really nice option. For highlights, I love to travel with my ColourPop ones. These are lovely. I really enjoy them. I find that they're not liquids, so you don't have to worry about putting them into a liquids bag. They give a ton of shine, especially if I know that we're gonna go to like a fancy kind of dinner and I want a lot of highlight. I will pack Flexitarian, this one here. And yeah, these are just really stunning products, especially if you're someone who, I don't know if you're like me, but when I travel, my skin can get even more dry, and these highlights, because they are creamed powder finish, they look so healthy on my skin, and I really enjoy traveling with these. So shout out to these. Now, ones that I want to love to travel with, but every time I travel with these, I like them. I like to wear them. I love the actual highlights, but every time I travel with them, I like get like nervous, because these little guys from Becca are perfect to travel with, right? They're mini, they're cute, and they're beautiful. I'm wearing this one in Champagne Pop today, but this is what's happened to me in the past, that they not dropped, not knocked around. I take very good care of my makeup. I make sure to carry my bags very carefully, and I've had this pan completely fall out before, and I've had to repress it, just unprovoked falling out. So if you want to travel with these guys, I say open them at your own risk. Know that they do fall out of the pans easily, and you may very well have to press them back into the pan on your own, because for whatever reason, I've seen multiple people complain about how those Becca powders just kind of pop out of their container even when they haven't been dropped. Moving into blush, this is my go-to blush formula for when I travel. Again, my skin can look kind of dry, and these Largella powders, which I think are, sadly, Largella is going out of business. So if you, that's what I've heard at least, if you find these at TJ Maxx or somewhere, I say grab one and try the formula, because this is my favorite formula. I'm heartbroken that I might not be able to get my hands on any in the future, but these are baked highlighters, and they give a little bit of shimmer, or not shimmer, but glow to your skin without being shimmery or glittery. I love these. These are so nice. So this is my little go-to travel palette here. Okay, after just raving about so many bronzers, highlights, and blushes, I do have one product that I think kind of wins overall, and this is because of its travel factor. This is the Toasted Cashmere Midi palette from Ofra, and it's perfect. I think it's gorgeous. It comes with a bronzer, a highlight in Rodeo Drive, and then a peachy kind of corally blush. And the blush is kind of pigmented. I prefer my blushes to be a little less pigmented, but you can just go in slow and work slowly, and you don't build up color too fast. But it has a little bit of a sheen to it, which I think is beautiful. I like matte blushes, don't get me wrong, but I think when they have just a little bit of life to them, they're beautiful. But I've traveled with this a ton, and this bronzer is really great. if you have not tried Ofra highlights, they are outstanding and I highly recommend them. And Rodeo Drive is so flattering in my opinion. This one is one, whenever I wear this palette, I just catch glimpses of myself in the mirror and I feel so vain because I'm like, okay, you're staring, you need to move on. Let's go on. Okay, let's move into eyeshadow. So I'm gonna talk a ton about palettes for a minute. I tried different palettes each trip almost every time. And I have to say, I have a clear favorite, but I'll go over all the palettes and give you my thoughts. So when I was going to Spain, I wanted something very neutral because I knew I was gonna be wearing like bright red lips. And my go-to neutral palette is this Lorac Pro 3 palette, and this one to me is, I don't think it would work for all skin tones. It's obviously very light and then there are a couple really dark shades, so if you're like medium to deep skin tone, it probably wouldn't work for you. But if you're a light skin tone like me, this is such a great neutral palette and I love these shades here. They're so beautiful. This medallion shade is kind of chunky, but that's also why I like kind of love it. It's like this beautiful, perfect, like not crazy but very there still eyeshadow look that it's perfect to pair with like a bold lip. So this was one that I packed for Spain. I enjoyed it, but I also knew it's kind of a one-trick pony. It's just really good at that one trick. And then for Amsterdam, I packed this guy here, my Natural Eyes palette from Too Faced, and I have to say, I was pleasantly more surprised with this palette than I thought I would be. I kind of was nervous packing it because it's kind of very cool tone and I didn't want all my looks to come out cool tone. But I have to say, a lot of like Push Up here and Honey Pot, they can come out very, they actually can look very warm, and the like transition creased with Nudie, even though it's cool tone, it still doesn't look bad. Obviously they designed that palette this way, so I should trust people who design palettes more probably. But this thing was a great little palette. I love the size of it, but it still doesn't win favorite for me. So another one that I traveled with, and this one I took just recently to Paris, mostly because I knew that I was wearing a sweater color and I wanted to wear this blue one day. So I made myself kind of just use this guy. And I like the shades in this palette, but I do not always love how these shadows perform, and I'm shocked. I think the Dose of Colors matte formula is fantastic, outstanding, I love it, but these shimmer shades, which are stunning, I have to work so hard for them to stay on my eyes. I put down eye primer, I put down glitter glue, I lay down the shades, and at the end of the day, I kid you not, I still have creasing and I still have fading. I don't understand it, especially from these two right here that are like my favorite two in the palette. Those are the ones that crease and fade on me the most. My least favorite shimmer in here is this one. It's still a beautiful shade, but this one is the one probably that has the most lasting power on me, but it's just my least exciting shimmer in the palette, so I don't understand why I have such a struggle with this palette. Also, this green looks so beautiful in the palette, probably blinding you. But on my eyes, it looks more bronze than it does green, and that's also a letdown. So I wanted to love this palette so much more than I do. I really like this palette because the colors are still fantastic, but I really do struggle with the formula of this palette. All right, let's talk about my final and favorite palette, and that is my Modern Renaissance palette. This is not my favorite ABH palette by any means, but for travel, this is such a stunning palette. This palette has warm shades, it has neutral shades, it has some fun pops of colors with these pinks, and I think that is phenomenal. Like, it gives you so many choices and options in such a small, like, nice, tidy packaging for travel, and this is my go-to travel palette. This is absolutely the one that I think of so fondly. I don't think I would love this palette as much if I didn't, like, love to travel with it, so I hope that makes sense. A couple more shout out for the eye category are, I also like to travel with Super Shock shadows when I'm traveling with the Modern Renaissance palette if I want a little bit more of a sparkly, intense shimmer. So those Modern Renaissance shimmers are not nearly as foiled and metallic as her other palettes. Like Norvina's like shimmers are chunky, and I really like chunky shimmers. Sultry has very chunky shimmers, and I prefer that. So I sometimes will want to amp up my like shimmer shade, and these little guys from ColourPop are really great for that. So this shade here, Frog, is a really nice topper shade, and it's a very glittery, but it's got a lot of dimension to it. So I layer it over like that pinky kind of shimmery shade in the ABH palette. Another one here is Fringe from ColourPop, and this is a nice one to top over that gold because it's a nice also gold kind of champagne-y color. And again, just a really nice little topper shade, and these are very fun to travel with because they don't take up a ton of space. They are travel friendly. You don't have to worry about putting them in a liquids bag or anything like that. But I do have one that I do tend to put in my liquids bag because I think it's that special. I'm wearing it today. This is Stila in Wanderlust. This is my favorite Stila glitter that I have, and I just think it's neutral, but at the same time it's so much more glittery than some of my other ones. Like one of the ones I'm panning right now is Rose Gold Retro, and this one is so much more sparkly than Rose Gold Retro, and I love this shade. I love it. I'm gonna miss it when it's gone, but one day I hope to finish it. So let's talk about one more thing in my eye category that I like to pack. I like to bring some lashes, and this is my latest pair that I just opened. Again, I'm wearing these today. This is the Kiss Blowout Lash in the pixie style, I guess. And yeah, these little lashes, I didn't know what to expect when I went on my recent trip to Paris, but I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised. They look very beautiful without being overwhelming to my face, and I really enjoy these, so I wanted to give these a little shout out too. And to close this video out, I want to talk about a couple lip products because I like to pack lip products, obviously. I love lipstick, but I try to be very thoughtful and pack very few lip products for my trip. And typically I pack like one gloss, and my go-to gloss is Hot Toddy from Buxom. This thing is a gorgeous neutral shade, and when you're traveling and your lips are a little bit dry because airplanes are dry and you don't probably, if you're like me, you don't drink enough water when you're out and about, this is such a nice kind of relief. It tingles without hurting, and you don't think about how chapped your lips are in that moment. So that's a go-to. That one goes with me everywhere. Now these next couple are ones that I will switch up depending on what I'm feeling and what my clothes that I'm packing look like. So this one here is the one I'm wearing today. This is Varnish Rosewood by L'Oreal. It's a nice kind of just mauvey neutral color, looks glossy. I like to pack things that I can put on without looking at my face if I'm on a train or something and I don't want to pull out all of my makeup and do it in public. This is one that I do that with. Another one that I do that with is Revlon in HD Desert, and this one again is very similar in the fact that it's kind of more of a brown than mauve, but it's that glossy sheer formula that I can just slap on without looking at my face. And then another one that does that I think this one is this is one of those kind of gimmicky looking things. It's one of those color changing balms, but this one has such a soft color versus being some of those color changing balms can look very hot pink, and this one to me is so beautiful and I love it. The only thing I wish it provided a little bit more hydration. It doesn't dry my lips out, but it doesn't really provide hydration, and if it did, I think it would be my perfect go-to lip product. But yeah, depending on what I want. Pinky, I pick this. Brownie, I pick the HD Desert one, and then if I want something a little bit more mauve-y leaning, this one is it. And then I always travel with this just in case I need that tingling sensation as a relief. And the last two, depending again on my clothing, I choose one of these guys to travel with because I always travel with a red lip. And if I want more orange leaning, if I'm wearing more warm colors, I will go to this L'Oreal one in Madly in Love. This is a very orange leaning red lip, and it's bold. So if I'm wearing more warm colors and I want a more orange leaning lip, probably in summer, that is what I pull for. This one is my bluish leaning one, and this is Very Cherry from Maybelline, and this one is, I'll swatch it right next to it, right there. So you can see very orange, very blue. And those are my go-to red lips. I just decide based on my clothing that I pack which one is gonna suit me better, and I go with that. Okay, that is everything I have to talk to you about today with travel makeup. Let me know if you have any travel items that I didn't include, because I'd definitely be interested in seeing what other people like to travel with. Make sure to say hello in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.